They are lying to us. We know it. They know we know it. And they're squirming to try and show something. But
today, on What the Hell is Wrong with These People?
Chemtrails? Are we being sprayed, or is this just another really stupid claim from people who don't understand clouds? Let's find out.
Shut up and sit down, you big bald f***.
Please subscribe. Have you ever looked up at the sky and wondered if you're being secretly sprayed by the government? No, me neither. But some people genuinely believe that we are. So today we're going to take a look at a channel that I've not covered yet. And the channel was sent to me in my Discord server by a user called F4. So if we don't enjoy the video, then we all know exactly who's to blame. Anyway, Richard Vobes is one of those don't trust anyone or anything people. And he's from the UK. But he's got videos claiming things like smoking cigarettes is actually good for you. And that you don't actually have to pay for your gas or electricity. But today, he's gonna school us all on chemtrails. So Richard, over to you, pal.
meanwhile, we're going to try and help everybody else understand what they're doing to the skies. And interestingly enough, somebody very kindly sent me what the Met Office have been saying about it. And you'd think they would know what's going on. Well, they admit it. They admit what they're doing.
Geoengineering is a method to counterbalance the effects of global warming owing to the increased concentrations of atmospheric greenhouse gases.
So, the Met Office, with actual scientists with fancy degrees, is talking about potential climate interventions. And what do we get? A perfectly reasonable explanation of complex science. But don't worry about that. Richard, my new friend and our resident expert, is about to tell us why all of that is, to quote him, ignorant and stupid. Because, you know, facts are just suggestions when you've got a narrative to push, aren't they, Richard?
So it says here, what different types of geoengineering are there?
Geoengineering or climate engineering generally falls into two specific categories. The first of which is called carbon dioxide removal, which, as the name suggests, is basically capturing carbon from the atmosphere and storing it.
That's not a sensible policy, seeing as CO2 is the gas of life. We need that to grow plants, and animals need to eat the plants, and we obviously eat both.
Yes, so I've heard this CO2 is plant food argument before. Yeah, it's essential for life, just like water. And too much water can drown you. It's almost like context and quantity matter, isn't it? But why bother with nuance when you can just declare something ignorant and stupid because it doesn't fit your preconceived notions? This guy literally hasn't got a clue how science even works.
The second method is what's known as solar radiation management. Now, solar radiation management differs from carbon dioxide removal in that what you're trying to do is reflect an additional amount of sunlight back out to space. So solar radiation management is basically trying to reflect sunlight back out to space, leading to a cooling to counterbalance the increases in greenhouse gases.
Yes, science!
Now, usually I would cut in at this point and give you an explanation about solar management, but the actual scientist from the Met Office did a perfectly fine job. So now you can go ahead and tell us why he's wrong.
Well, it's very cold when the chemical trails are up there in the sky. We certainly notice the difference. I mean, we're in the end of May. We're fast approaching the summer, and we're only given a few days of sunshine in the UK. Wherever you are, it might be slightly different. The idea of reflecting the sun back out, the sunlight is the energy of life. CO2 and sunlight are two of the most important aspects that we want. If you start mucking about by taking the sun out of the equation, you are effectively destroying life. And this is so basic. You cannot believe how ignorant and how stupid these people must be. And these are people in positions of so-called knowledge and power, and just peddling the same old rubbish that everybody knows is rubbish.
And once again, you can have too much of a good thing. And as for your groundbreaking revelation that sunlight is vital for life...
Blows my mind every time.
I know, Uncle Bryn. It's almost as if the concept of managing solar radiation, not eliminating it, is completely lost on you. It's like saying you shouldn't wear sunglasses because sunlight is vital. The intellectual gymnastics required to misunderstand this badly are absolutely phenomenal. Although I don't think it is a misunderstanding, I think it's deliberate misrepresentation.
There's been various different solar radiation management schemes that have been mooted as being possible, all of which are basically trying to reflect sunlight back out to space.
Why would you do that?
Well, I'm sure the Met Office guy is going to explain it, but the primary reason for reflecting sunlight back out into space is to mitigate the effects of climate change by reducing the amount of solar radiation absorbed by the Earth.
Why? Why would you not use some common sense?
Are you taking a piss?
And go, this is barking. This planet has been around for millions of years. We don't, and a few people on it running around like ants have somehow caused this warming? Really?
Well, yeah, and I'm not sure that 8 billion counts as being a few. But yeah, it's like everything else man gets their hands on. We've got a tendency to completely ruin it.
You are mad.
One of the most popular is to inject some reflective material into the stratosphere. This mimics really the impact of volcanic eruptions.
So we want to imply that there are more volcanic eruptions. That's a good place to live, is it? By chucking out stuff into the atmosphere, which presumably will eventually fall down. And are we not breathing all of this?
Yeah, right, because injecting microscopic particles into the stratosphere to reflect sunlight is precisely the same as just chucking stuff out there that we all breathe. Whatever the hell that means. He didn't say we're adding volcanic eruptions, did he? Do you have any understanding of atmospheric layers, particle sizes, or, basic physics?
Which have been shown on the observational record to cool climate. There's another method which is artificial brightening of low-lying stratocumulus clouds. If you inject some aerosol into these low-lying stratocumulus clouds, you can brighten them. And of course, when you get a brightening of the planet, you're reflecting more sunlight back out to space.
Yeah, and you're decimating life on the Earth. I mean, it's bonkers, isn't it? Isn't this not just absolutely bonkers?
You're starting to sound a lot like a flat earther, because all you're doing is letting an actual scientist explain this highly experimental and controversial idea, and you're just saying, that's stupid, you're wrong, why would you do that? I thought you were going to actually show us the evils of the Met Office's ways.
Leave it alone. Stop injecting all this stuff into the atmosphere, which we know, of course. I mean, and he's putting a very general case about it, isn't he? He's telling us that it's benign and all of this, and putting it into as friendly words as is possible. But of course, he's not actually telling you that the other substances they're shoving in there with the aluminium and the barium.
Aluminium? Are you going to present evidence to back that up, or is it, as I suspect is the case with you, like every other conspiracy theorist?
You couldn't back up a phone, you c***.
But I suppose that when you have no evidence, you just invent some trace elements and declare them the secret ingredient, that the government's using to control our minds. Hang on a second, I know you lot. That made it sound like I'm saying that he's just invented aluminium, even though he said aluminium. So maybe he has, but that wasn't what I was saying.
And the various other... He's not telling you the nefarious things about decimating the farmland, and the dark forces, and they're trying to kill off the food, the great famine that will come because things won't grow, the poisoning of the atmosphere, all of it.
And just like that, we've gone from geoengineering to a full-blown apocalyptic great famine engineered by dark forces. Because if you're going to make wild claims, why not throw in some global genocide and decimated contaminated farmlands for good measure. It's remarkable how quickly I don't understand atmospheric science morphs into they're trying to starve us all. This is beyond having no clue. This is just pure, unadulterated fear-mongering.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm. What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure? Stay calm!
And he probably doesn't know that.
But I'm sure you do, Richard, right?
He probably only knows the tiny bit, the story, that is plausible and maybe it makes sense. Well, no, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Stop meddling with our atmosphere. It's our planet. Nobody asked you. You didn't come to the people of the planet or to the people of the country and say, is it all right if we do this? We think there's a problem. Is it okay? Because you've got to breathe this in.
He only knows a tiny bit is usually an argument deployed by somebody who knows even less but shouts a hell of a lot louder. And then the sudden concern for consent when it comes to atmospheric science, as if every single scientific advancement ever made required a global public vote. Funny how this concern for what we breathe only pops up when you think it supports a chemtrail narrative. Because even though you haven't actually said the words, we all know that's what you're getting at. Or at least I hope that's what you're getting at, or I might have to redo the thumbnail.
So the Met Office are telling you what's going on. They've said they're spraying this aerosol stuff in there.
But nothing, pal. He said no such thing. He's talking about an idea. And if you would bother to read anything about the Met Office's involvement in geoengineering, you would have seen this. The Met Office does not engage in adding substances to the atmosphere in order to modify it. The Met Office does not undertake any practical or theoretical research into weather modification. He's probably talking about it as an atmospheric scientist, not as the guy who's going to be going out and doing it if it ever gets done. It's still an idea. Context matters, Richard, which is probably why most conspiracy conmen grifters choose to leave it out. So why would you be the exception to the rule? Let
us just have a look at this email here, because this is an email that came in from a chap called Shane, and he says, hi Richard, this is an email, he's going to show us in a second, I sent to the Civil Aviation Authority, and the one I received back, I'm sure they have a scripted answer for all. It's shocking they treat us with such contempt and insult our intelligence at every instance.
Wait a second, you mean somebody's actually emailed the Civil Aviation Authority and asked them to stop spraying us?
To whom it may concern, I'm making a freedom of information request regarding the geoengineering and stratospheric aerosol injections taking place over Bedford in the UK on behalf of myself and my community. Please can you provide the names of the companies or branch of military carrying this out? Very good question. Please can you provide all information on the flights on the dates of the 1st of the 3rd, 2024 to present day, as this is when we started recording the flights and the planes and have recorded them.
Can you imagine if you worked for the Civil Aviation Authority and that popped into your inbox?
So he's telling the Civil Aviation, we know what you're doing.
Well, if he did actually send him that email, I think he needs to be more concerned about what he's doing than anyone else.
So he says that, and here is the response. Can we put your mind at rest? Aircraft are not allowed to dispense any chemicals into the atmosphere in the UK. Really? And yet we're all seeing it. This is the Civil Aviation Authority, but maybe they don't know what their pilots are doing. What you're actually witnessing... Oh, here we go. This will be good. Here's the truth at last.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, it is the truth, because what conspiracy theorists like you think are contrails... No, that's what they are. What conspiracy theorists like you think are chemtrails are actually just condensation trails. It's perfectly normal for all planes.
What you're witnessing is the formation of persistent condensation trails. Oh. Contrails. Yes, I think we're being conned again.
And who better to spot a con than a con man?
By aircraft transiting along the air traffic service routes, also known as airways, that are established over the UK. Contrails are formed when water vapour, which is emitted from aircraft engines as part of the combustion process, comes into contact with the surrounding air. Their formation is completely dependent upon the ambient atmospheric conditions such as temperature, pressure and humidity. If the air is dry Low level of humidity, the trail will only appear, as it were, for a short plume behind the aircraft. Whereas, if the surrounding area or close the saturation, high level humidity, the contrail will evaporate slowly, or not at all, or will be... What do you mean, not at all?
They mean this. If the air at cruising altitude is very cold and humid, the ice crystals in the contrail can persist for much longer. And over time, these persistent contrails spread out due to upper atmosphere winds and turbulence, becoming wider and fuzzier. And when they spread out significantly, they can become indistinguishable from natural cirrus clouds, essentially forming contrail cirrus clouds.
What? You're telling me that an aeroplane could go to a certain height and the vapour will just not evaporate at all, ever? It's just going to stay up there?
No, that's not what they're saying. They are not saying that sometimes contrails from aeroplanes stay forever.
You can find more information here at aircraftcontrailsgovernment.uk and here at Chemtrails Debunked. Oh yeah, like we're going to go and see that. That's the aerosociety.com.
Brilliant. You literally just highlighted just how deep down the rabbit hole you go. They've offered you a resource where you can read accurate scientific information which shows you why they are not chemtrails, and you literally said...
Oh yeah, like we're going to go and see that.
Which says it all.
This is disgusting and is blatant lies, and our skies are continually being filled up with this nonsense. They are lying to us. We know it. They know we know it, and they're squirming to try and show something. But we must get to the bottom of this, for otherwise... This is the end of humanity, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is. And everyone knows that condensation is responsible for thousands of deaths every year.
Boom. Roasted.
If atheists believe in magic, then what do young Earth creationists believe? Is it more plausible than reality, or just a load of...
Shut up and sit down, you big bald f***.
Please subscribe.
Imagine if I made the claim that some element like gold just appeared out of nothing in this area where I'm filming this video. Nobody would probably really believe that. But yet, there are some people who claim that the entire cosmos, the entire world, popped into existence with all of the elements from nothing.
No, there aren't. Good start, Matt. Strawman the scientific view of the universe's origin, conveniently ignoring that a scientific nothing isn't a literal empty void. Now, if we look at your own explanation for creation, well, that's the ultimate something from nothing, isn't it? But that's fine, because you think God did it.
This is a belief in magic. There is no question that atheism is based in mysticism. It is not true. It is unscientific.
Right, let's clear something up. Atheism isn't a belief system. It's the lack of belief in all gods. There are no sacred texts, no rituals, no dogmas, no magical incantations, unless you count show me the evidence. It's the polar opposite of mysticism. It's a stance of skepticism, demanding testable, falsifiable evidence for grand claims. So when Matt says it's not true or it's unscientific, he's essentially saying that asking for evidence for creationist claims is unscientific.
The initial claim of atheism is actually the greatest argument against atheism. Think about it. They believe that the world created itself from literally nothing.
Okay, then let me try to be absolutely clear once again, because apparently this bears repeating until it finally sinks in. No serious cosmologists, no reputable physicists, and certainly no atheist worth their salt asserts that the universe popped into existence from a state of absolute philosophical, there was literally not a single thing at all, nothingness. That's just your misunderstanding, or more likely misrepresentation, of quantum mechanics, space-times, and the very early universe. When science discusses nothing in this context, it's often referring to pre-Big Bang states, quantum fields, or conditions where our current understanding of physics just breaks down. It's not a void, it's not empty space. We do not think we came from nothing. But I can show you what I think young Earth creationists seem to believe the universe was like pre-Big Bang.
Where are we?
I don't know. It's like we're not anywhere.
Check out this quote from Stephen Hawking. He said that because there are laws such as gravity, the universe can and will create itself from nothing. Alexander Vilenkin said that the universe can spontaneously create itself out of nothing. Here's from Lawrence Krauss. He said the universe can and will create itself from nothing.
When Stephen Hawking, Alexander Vilenkin, or Lawrence Krauss, pick any serious physicist, but when they talk about the universe arising from nothing, they are not talking about nothing in the sense that literally not a single thing exists. That's just you misunderstanding and misrepresenting again. And you only push it because it's the only way you know that you can make your God did it explanation sound less absurd by comparison.
These claims made by atheists are very foolish. They are demonstrably false. They are not true. The first law of thermodynamics tells us that matter and energy cannot be created nor destroyed.
The funny thing is that when Matt tries to use the first law of thermodynamics as proof that atheist claims are foolish, the immediate glaring issue, as highlighted by young Matthew, is his own hypocrisy. If matter and energy truly cannot be created or destroyed, then how exactly did God create the universe, man? You apply the law selectively, using it to attack scientific understanding while simultaneously ignoring how it completely contradicts your own foundational belief in creation by a deity. It's intellectual cherry picking and nothing more.
And so to make the claim that everything just appeared from nothing is to make the argument that magic is real.
Oh, goody, we've circled back to the magic is real argument. It seems we're stuck in a bit of a logical loop, aren't we, Matt? It's almost as if when you don't have a coherent evidence-based counter-argument, you just default to repeating the same disingenuous premise over and over again, hoping it sticks. Now let me break it down for you and for anyone else who might be genuinely confused by this particular brand of reasoning. When cosmologists discuss the origin of the universe, they're exploring scenarios within the bounds of physics. Now let's talk about magic. What is magic? It's generally defined as an inexplicable power, often supernatural, used to make things happen that defy natural laws. So if we follow that definition, which scenario actually posits magic? Creationism or physics?
The Bible says that in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter, does it? Because the Bible is not a physics textbook.
And that is the best explanation for the origin of time, space, and nature.
Standard, when all else fails, my holy book. So let's unpack this best explanation claim, shall we? Now, when we talk about an explanation in a scientific or empirical sense, we are looking for things like the mechanisms. How did it happen? Predictive power. Can it tell us what we should expect to observe?
How about new?
Testability and falsifiability. Can we devise experiments or observation that could potentially prove the Bible wrong? And then consistency. Does it align with other independently verified facts about the universe? It can't do any of those things.
We did not appear out of randomness. So the initial claim that atheists make about the origin of the universe is the very claim that is the easiest to debunk.
Then why has no young earth creationist ever debunked it then? You do understand that saying God did it isn't debunking anything. First off, this tired narrative about randomness. Nobody in science, when discussing the origin of the universe or the development of life, is claiming that things just randomly went poof, without any governing principles. The universe operates on an incredibly precise set of physical laws. Evolution isn't random. It's natural selection acting on genetic variation, a fundamentally non-random filtering process. And the Big Bang isn't a random explosion in nothingness. It's the expansion of space-time governed by physics. So to conflate these complex law-abiding processes with randomness is either deeply ignorant, which I happen to think it isn't in Matt's case, or, and this is what I do think it is, it's deliberately deceptive, Matt. You're just a liar, exactly the same as Kent Hovind and every flat earther that has ever flat earthed.
There is no way that everything that you see around you could have just popped into existence uncaused by randomness and from nothing. If I made the argument that nothing could start a fire, that would be absurd, right? But imagine if an explosion occurred and nuclear fusion came about. How is it that we have nuclear fusion in the universe?
You really are a ridiculous little boy, aren't you, Matt? All you're doing is repeating the same tired, debunked arguments over and over again, hoping that repetition will somehow make you right. Well, it's not worked for Kent Hovind, so it ain't gonna work for you, pal.
There is no evidence for evolution. None.
All you're doing is highlighting a phenomenon you don't understand, presenting it as some sort of unanswerable riddle, and then claiming that your holy book provides the only scientific solution. And all you're doing is revealing a profound preference for ignorance over actual knowledge.
Could nothing cause nuclear fusion to just spark itself into existence? You cannot get something from nothing. Out of nothing, nothing comes. Nothing is not going to generate something by random chance.
It's fine. I'm a patient guy, so let me make this crystal clear. Again, no scientist, no atheist, no rational person is claiming that nuclear fusion, or anything else for that matter, just popped into existence from nothing. That's just a ridiculous straw man that belongs in a poorly written fan fiction, not a serious discussion. Nuclear fusion is not an uncaused random spark from absolute nothingness. It's a process that requires specific conditions. Immense heat, incredible pressure, pre-existing fundamental particles like protons and neutrons. And these conditions were present in the early hot dense universe, and then later in the cores of massive stars, all governed by well-understood physical laws. There is nothing random about hydrogen atoms fusing into helium when subjected to millions of degrees and atmospheres of pressure. The irony is so thick, you could use it to build a flat Earth dome, Matt.
Before the Big Bang, there was nothing. Literally nothing. And then something happened, triggering the most colossal explosion in history.
Right, showing a National Geographic clip. And because National Geographic poorly explained the Big Bang, you think that means that you were right. The Big Bang was the expansion of space itself, not an explosion in space. And furthermore, I've already highlighted the hypocrisy of demanding a trigger for the Big Bang, while you were God, the ultimate first cause, according to you lot, conveniently requires no prior explanation. So your argument relies on misrepresentation to create a false dilemma. It's not going great for you today, Matt, is it?
So how can we trust these atheist science celebrities to tell us anything about the universe or about science or about the origin of life when they are so blatantly incorrect about the very fundamental of their belief in atheism?
But that's the point, Matt. You shouldn't just blindly trust them. You should read physics papers that have been peer-reviewed and published. And like the Bible, National Geographic isn't a reliable source for your argument. They are making it seem a lot more dramatic than it actually was by using buzzwords like nothing and explosion. And then idiots like you are all over it. Atheism is not a belief system with fundamentals that can be blatantly incorrect in a scientific sense. Atheism is, as we've tirelessly established, the absence of belief in God or gods. It doesn't have tenets about cosmology, biology, or the origin of life. Scientists who happen to be atheists derive their understanding of the universe from evidence, observation, experimentation, and rigorous peer review, not from some atheist doctrine. Mainly because there isn't any, because it's not a religion. Their personal stance on deities is completely irrelevant to the validity of their scientific work.
The cosmological argument states that everything that begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist at some point, and that means that the universe must have a cause that goes beyond it, that must be outside of it.
Matt, everything you're claiming is conveniently exempt in your proposed cause, God, from needing a cause,
Ha! Shocker. God gets it right.
violating the very rule you have applied to the universe. Look at this. Look at this pinned comment from his video. It says it all, really. Nothing is defined as the absence of everything. Krauss, Hawking, Dawkins, and others have tried to redefine what nothing is. They can't just change the dictionary definition of words. That's twisting meanings, changing definitions, and outright lying to fit the narrative. But that's the dictionary definition, Matt, which applies in general, yes, but it doesn't always apply in physics. In physics, nothing isn't just the absence of everything, but rather the lowest energy state of a system, often referred to as the quantum vacuum. And this vacuum isn't truly empty. It's a dynamic state filled with virtual particles popping in and out of existence due to quantum fluctuations.
Whatever brought into existence time, space, and nature must have been able to make the choice, an intelligent mind.
Yeah, but for something to be able to make a choice and have an intelligent mind, wouldn't it be beneficial, first of all, if that thing even existed?
Not believe in God would take more faith than to believe in God. It takes irrational faith to be an atheist, but it takes rationality to understand that God did in fact create this world.
Well, we finally arrived at Matt's grand finale, the attempt to redefine faith and rationality to suit his narrative. So according to you, Matt Powell official, to not believe in God would require more faith than to believe in God. Now let's be very clear about what faith actually means in a religious context, and you should already know this, young Matthew. But it's a belief without sufficient evidence, often in the face of contradictory evidence. Atheism, on the other hand, is not a belief at all. It's the absence of belief in a God, precisely because of a lack of sufficient compelling evidence. Saying it takes more faith to not believe in something unevidenced is like saying it takes more faith not to believe in unicorns than it does to believe in unicorns.
My mama told me I could be anything in the world, so I decided to be a unicorn.
You can make anything flat or curved or wavy on Earth. That's why the definitive proof of the flat or the level or the biblical Earth has always been.
There's another final experiment, and this time the plan is to debunk the globe. What is this final experiment? Well, digging a 12-inch deep trench just 1 mile long. Have these people got absolutely no clue how curvature actually works? Let's find out.
Shut up and sit down, you big bald f***.
Please subscribe.
For those that haven't figured out Jaren's fanboys or whatever, that haven't figured out his Home Depot argument, you can make anything flat or curved or wavy on Earth. That's why the definitive proof of the flat or the level or the biblical Earth has always been the water. You can't build Home Depots on water, Jaren. That's why the testing has to be done with water. That's why you have constantly avoided it for 10 years, even though many of us have shouted it at you so many times we're blue in the face.
But the issue isn't whether or not you can build a Home Depot on water, it's whether you understand how water behaves on a planet-sized object under gravity. This isn't avoiding you shouting it for 10 years, Dan. It's just that the scientific community isn't in the business of debating profound stupidity. We've got centuries of observations and physics that already cover this without needing to check if a big box store can float. What are you on about?
So quit strawmanning people. Your Home Depot argument is a joke.
Ugh, I hate it when this happens. I gotta go and do some actual work now and find this bloody Home Depot argument.
A few moments later.
I got it!
Well, let's say that we had a Home Depot, we placed a Home Depot on that ball, and we know that everywhere in the Home Depot is flat. Just kind of picture a Home Depot, we know it's all level. If we put a level anywhere on that Home Depot floor, it's going to show level. So now let's picture that the entire world is nothing but a Home Depot. right? So it's a ball Earth, but it's a Home Depot. Well, everywhere on that Home Depot will be flat, okay? So there is no place you would not be able to take a spirit level anywhere in the Home Depot, place it down and say, nope, look, now it's showing curve. Yet, I just said that we are on a curved Earth, we're on a ball, that's just a gigantic Home Depot.
Yeah, clear as mud. I think, and I use that term very loosely, but I think he's saying that even if the Earth were a ball, like a giant Home Depot, which isn't a ball, so I still don't actually get it, but a spirit level would always show flat. Therefore, measuring level locally doesn't prove anything about global curvature. Is that what it sounds like to you as well? Let me know in the comments below, because I can't see Mr. Pratt being much help.
I can make Home Depots look like a camel hump on Earth with enough equipment and money. Doesn't prove anything about the flat Earth.
Dan, you're even more confusing than usual. I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. I don't think Geron's Home Depot argument is trying to prove that the Earth is a globe, because we don't need to. I think this is from when he was still a flat earther. So, what's your problem with it? What?
So shut up about Home Depot, you clown.
Hang on a second, you were the one that brought it up, but okay, let's talk about some other kind of stupid then.
Now, my take is, if you are still talking about who's a shill, who's not a shill, anyone not saying, look, American people, there are tens of millions of people that may not think the Earth is flat, but know that NASA is full of it.
Well, of course we're gonna get the classic shill accusation. It's a Dan Pratt video. Because if you're not peddling the flat earth brand of truth, you're clearly on the payroll. And look, I get it. You don't have to be a flat earther to think that NASA's a little bit dodgy. There's lots of people who think like that for some reason. I have no idea why, but they do. But here's the thing. Believing NASA is full of it doesn't magically flatten the Earth, make rockets stop working, or conjure up hidden ice walls. Now, my quest isn't about defending NASA, it's about dissecting the stupidity of unsubstantiated claims like the Earth being flat. Whether you think somebody is a shill or not, it doesn't matter. The fact is, unfortunately for flat earthers, science doesn't support Home Depot analogies or a flat planet.
Yet NASA has received and continues to receive, adding on to the trillions they have got through government funding, much less merchandising and other things.
Do you know what you sound like, Dan? It sounds to me like you think they should be giving the money to you instead for your very important flat earth research. You sound like a jealous child. But NASA's total budget over more than 60 years of existence adjusts to around $1 trillion. Not trillions as in multiples or endless sums just floating around, and certainly not some bottomless pit. Their annual budget, we're talking about $25 billion a year on average, which, fun fact, is only about 0.4% of the entire US federal budget. So really, it's a measly fraction, not some colossal conspiracy fund.
To do a proper, permanent water test, finally, and I would suggest presenting it as not a flat earth proof, but a globe proof.
Well, you would, wouldn't you? Because you're an idiot. Now, even if asking NASA to do a water experiment isn't stupid enough on its own, asking them to do it while claiming the Earth's shape hasn't already been observed and proven through countless methods involving water. Ships over the horizon, tidal forces, the curvature of the oceans themselves. This isn't some finally moment, Dan. It's a desperate attempt to invent a problem where none exists, showing that you have absolutely no clue what scientific proof actually entails.
Science. What is it all about?
I have no clue.
We don't need NASA to prove what's already self-evident, Dan.
Stop telling us to trust the science and just allow us to observe it and verify it for ourselves. That indeed gravity does make water curve at 8 inches per mile squared or 6.66 inches over a mile, whatever you want to agree upon before you construct it.
We do allow you to observe it and verify it. It's called looking at a ship disappearing hull first over the horizon. And this obsession with 8 inches per mile squared or 6.66 inches over a mile, and the idea that gravity makes water curve in a way that's visually obvious over such tiny distances, that's just no clue how immense scales work or how basic physics translates to the real world. You're demanding to see something that's only perceptible at vastly larger scales, then claiming it doesn't exist when your microscopic test doesn't show it. But I can show you this and ask you a question, Dan, so pay attention. See this picture? The one on the screen now? What's going on here then? Now, this is a photograph of Toronto taken across Lake Ontario from Niagara-on-the-Lake. What happened to the bases of the buildings then, Mr. Pratt? What could possibly be blocking them from view?
What would this entail? Again, a 12-inch deep canal of water constructed over 1 mile.
So you believe observing this 1 mile long, 12-inch deep trench would disprove the Earth's shape? Specifically, hoping to show that the water remains perfectly level, contradicting the globe's predicted curvature over that distance. So you actually think that 1 mile, which is 0.004015% of the Earth's circumference, is going to show you that the Earth is flat? I mean, good luck.
The beauty of it is, the only things that have to be at a determined height that you could measure at each point and verify it is that distance from the ground are the ends and the center.
Oh yeah, everybody knows that when you're trying to prove the shape of an entire planet, 3 arbitrarily measured points on a potentially uneven, curved surface, well, that's the new standard for scientific precision. Dan, all this stuff has been done, and every time it is done, it just proves flat earthers wrong. So I fail to see exactly what you think this groundbreaking TFE2 is going to achieve for flat earth. I mean, if you want to show us how wrong flat earthers are, I guess it would do the trick. But as far as accurately measuring the shape of the earth, then not so much. Keep digging, Dan, because your 12-inch deep, 1 mile long trench just isn't going to cut it.
Is just fine. The ocean floor is not perfectly flat at the bottom.
No, we know. It kind of conforms to the shape of the planet it's on.
It's the top we're concerned about, where the argument is both sides agree it's level. It's just flat earthers know
nothing.
That it is flat and level on the surface of water, always on large bodies of water at rest.
Then come back to me once you've figured out what's hiding Toronto.
Because that's all they've got. Because if they were, sing along with me, anybody that's been on my channel for years, they don't do this water test because they can't.
That's wrong. Nobody does it because it's really stupid, Dan.
And even more beautiful for us and damning for them is they can't fake it.
Then it's probably just as well we don't need to. There are people right now up there in the ISS looking down at the Earth and seeing that it's a globe. It doesn't get much more cut and dry than that.
So my suggestion is those still in the flat Earth realm going to all these channels, start explaining this to people. You don't got to show them my video, you can explain it to them. That we need to start demanding that NASA provide a scientific method-based globe proof that is like a monument.
Well, it's your lucky day then, Mr. Pratt, because NASA did exactly that in the early 70s when they provided us with this image of Earth. It doesn't look flat to me.
Wherein people can go and visibly verify and observe gravity in action themselves.
Ah, right. Now I can see exactly what you're getting at. So you are never going to accept that the Earth is a globe until you personally can get high enough to see it for yourself.
Period. End of story.
And in a sense, Dan, now let's imagine that in some crazy alternative universe, NASA did agree to prove to flat earthers that the Earth is a globe. What would be the point? You've already all made it perfectly clear that you don't believe anything NASA says or publishes. You won't accept any of the pictures they've taken of the Earth from space as evidence that the Earth is indeed a globe. So why would it suddenly be different now?
But they've got everybody talking about their ridiculous anything but final experiment instead of demanding an actual final experiment.
I don't think NASA had anything to do with Will Duffy's final experiment, Dan. It was a privately run trip. Will footed the bill. Just because flat earthers don't like the results of the final experiment, because whether you choose to accept it or not, it was pretty final. I would even go as far as to say it was the final nail in the flat earth coffin. So your final experiment, that's going to be so much better because you think it's going to prove that the Earth is flat. So, crack on.
Why don't you start asking your globe-defending audience to start demanding a scientific method-based proof, water-based proof, verifiable, observable proof of your globe? You know it's a globe. You saw the sun. You've seen the light, Jaron. So, start demanding NASA prove it.
How about no? Out of everything that's on the internet, this is the best thing.
So I went for a little stroll this morning, get my steps in. I'm getting old. And I walked past my local cemetery. It's just round the corner from the house. And there was a guy crouching down behind the gravestone. So I went over and said, "Morning." And he said, "No, I'm having a shit, actually." How do you tell the sex of an ant? It's really simple. You get a glass of water, you drop both ants in, and if it sinks, it's a girl ant. But if it floats, boy ant. What do you call an artist with a brown finger? Picasso.
I don't think so. No, 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 no. I don't think so. No, 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 no. It's never, ever,